Alright, so The Boys Season 5 Episode 1 has been released on Prime Video, and they actually released Episode 1 and Episode 2 at the exact same time, so that was very nice for them to do for the fans. But we are here today to do our episode review for Episode 1 titled 15 Inches of Sheer Dynamite, and this was an amazing episode. They went out the gate very strong here for Episode 1, and already inside this episode there was a lot of payoff from all the way back to Season 1 of this series. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We're going to do the episode recap. We're going to talk about all the important events that happened. I'm going to give my opinion on them. And let's go ahead and begin with our beloved character, Starlight, okay? Because Starlight is back. This episode opens with Starlight. She is trying to sneak into this Homelander convention that he's holding. He's on stage with Sister Sage. And then in the background, backstage, we have Starlight fighting Black Noir. Black Noir happens to discover her back there. They're getting in a back and forth there. And then Starlight succeeds in her mission, that mission being to expose Homelander for the horrific events that he committed all the way back in Season 1 with the infamous plane incident. One of my favorite scenes in the entire show. That scene in particular is what really got me into this series and really made me go, okay, they have something special going on here. And yeah, so they play that video. Starlight, loads the video up on the screen at the back of the convention, right behind Homelander. The entire crowd of his biggest supporters get to see this event take place, this horrific event of him pretty much threatening to laser these victims of a plane crash and just leaving them there, letting the plane crash. Again, such an amazing moment from Season 1. It's nice to have that full circle payoff all the way now in the final season of The Boys, that being Season 5. So after this plays, we get a fantastic moment out of Homelander where he damn near lasers his biggest supporters because, of course, they're shocked, they gasp. He lights up the laser eyes, gets ready to just eliminate his entire audience, and Sister Sage stops him just a moment before, says no, don't do that, okay? And she is the smartest person in the universe. Supposedly that is her superpower, so she has this figured out. No need for Homelander to just go full haywire there. Now let's move on to our next important scene. We pick back up with the very on the nose freedom camps, okay? In particular, freedom camp number 47, and I believe it says something like freedom will set you free or something ridiculous like that at the top of these freedom camps that are pretty much concentration camps, okay? We're going all the way back to like 1942 Germany with this season of The Boys, and especially with how Homelander is acting and behaving in this season of The Boys. And we pick back up with the boys themselves, okay? We got Huey, we got MM, Mother's Milk, and then we got Frenchie, all partaking in this camp, okay? Not by their choice, obviously. And there's a bunch of other just random people there that we aren't familiar with. We don't know them. They have like the flag that is just stapled into their backs. Again, very on the nose here, but I love what they're doing with this series so far up to this point. Now we move over into a scene where we see Billy Butcher. We pick back up with Billy Butcher meeting his father once again, visiting his father, having a conversation with him, and pretty much telling his father that he is going to kill him. And his father's like, why would you do this? You're not going to get anything out of it. You're not going to change anything. And he pretty much says that because it's going to be fun for me to do. And then he gives him a hug and he starts to squeeze. And that's where that scene cuts right there. So we actually do not have confirmation on what exactly happened at the end of that scene there. And if we're following like classic television rules, if someone does not die on screen, his father is probably still alive. Billy Butcher probably just put the fear of God in him. And that's pretty much it there, okay? Maybe in the next episode, we'll see what exactly happened to his dad. Now, pick back up with the character of Firecracker holding her Truth Bomb podcast, right, with Homelander, where they're pretty much trying to expose the fact that this video that got aired to the world was an AI video. They Photoshop in like Homelander having 7 fingers inside the scene and say, see, it's not even like a good deep fake, guys. This isn't even a good AI video. And that's pretty much their way of pushing this all under the rug, under the table, so that it's never to be spoken about again. Sister Sage in particular says they put so much disinformation out there that you won't be able to tell what's true from what's fake. And it's very similar to what we see happen in real life, which is a big reason again why this show is still relevant and why we as fans love it so much. Now we also get to see in this scene how terrified the people working around Homelander really are. Their hearts are damn near beating out of their chest. He's disgusted by it. He's like, I spent all this time saving your lives. Why are you so afraid of me? This guy just has no level of self-awareness. He is a complete psychopath through and through, and that is exactly why he is my favorite character in the entire show. Okay, now we move over into Billy Butcher, now recruiting Kimiko to go and save the boys. Okay, so we pick back up with Kimiko, and then we move over into another scene where it shows exactly what's going to happen to anyone trying to escape this freedom camp. And what we see happen is someone absolutely loses their mind, they lose their mental capacity, they try to go over the fence, try to escape, and this soup just absolutely explodes him, head pops him, blood everywhere in classic The Boys fashion. And yeah, so we figure out what exactly is going to happen to you if you try to escape this place, and just exactly how they're managing to keep all of these people within the camp. Now we move over into one of my favorite scenes in the entire episode with The Deep and Black Noir. They're hosting like their men's podcast. They have a poster on the wall that says Men Lives Matter, Men for Equality. Hilarious stuff here. They're doing the Fresh and Fit parody. They're just going back and forth about the most ridiculous stuff. It is scenes like this that The Deep was made for, and I absolutely loved this scene in particular. Now we move over into Butcher and Kimiko recruiting Starlight to save the boys. There's a nice little banter back and forth between Starlight and Butcher, some funny moments, and then we discover in a very audience shocking way that Kimiko can now speak. She talks to Starlight openly and freely in a perfect American accent. She says she went through speech therapy. She's been watching TikTok, which by the way, go follow me on TikTok, Demigod ENT. But yeah, so we're kind of done with the sign language gimmick. I'm sure as an actor that was very frustrating for her to have to do for so many seasons, and now she can just openly talk, and it just is what it is. Now we're moving on now to a hilarious scene with Homelander where he calls in The Deep and Black Noir to come meet him so that he can tell them, hey, why have you not caught A-Train? Why have you not caught Starlight? Go and find these people. But the introduction to this scene and what's so shocking to the audience is that when you walk into this room with Homelander, he's just sitting there next to a corpse, some dude's head that he just ripped off, and it's just laying on the table, and he's just so nonchalant about it because, like I said, he is that much of an absolute psychopath, and it just made for a hilarious scene. He even walks up to Black Noir in The Deep and puts his hands on their necks, and he's just rubbing it while talking to them, threatening them the whole time. Again, this character is absolute gold, lightning in a bottle. I love what they managed to do over the 5 seasons with the Homelander character. Now, it pretty much sends The Deep and Black Noir after A-Train's family, and then we move over to another scene where we see the Vice President, Ashley Barrett, a very long-time character inside the show, is now married to this black superhero, this very religious guy. Okay, his name is O-Father, and it is just hilarious. He is this preacher guy, and I just love what they're doing with the series. It was a very funny bit that they were doing there, so I did want to mention it here because who knows, maybe that character will come into play later in the season. But then we move over to Butcher recruiting a character named the Worm, okay, or Worm he was calling him. That was pretty much like his first name. He is this script writer for Hollywood, and he was making funny quips about how AI has pretty much taken a lot of their jobs, but somehow it's getting better Rotten Tomatoes scores, but it's not art. Again, very on the nose stuff here, very relevant stuff here, and he pretty much recruits him for a mission to save the boys. Now we pick back up with Starlight. She's been meeting with A-Train. Again, he's been working with the good guys now, so they're calling him Reggie by his first name. I guess that's his name, Reggie. So she tries to recruit Reggie to save the boys, to go into the freedom camp. He says, absolutely no way in hell. I have a family to protect. Why would I put my life in jeopardy like that? That's an idiotic plan. And pretty much gets upset and runs off. And then we move over into the freedom camp where Homelander has now shown up there. He's killed a bunch of people that were helping Huey out there, that were hiding his secrets. And he pretty much reveals to Huey, hey, I know you're trying to escape. We're not dumb, okay? I wanted to give you a little bit of hope, and we're just gonna sit here and wait for your friends to show up. And he pretty much ties them up. Frenchie, MM, Huey, all the boys are tied up, and Homelander awaits for the arrival of Billy Butcher, Starlight, and Kimiko. Now, we figure out where A-Train is hiding his family. There's a nice brotherly scene there where his brother is pretty much telling him how proud of him he is and how proud his mother would be of him, that he's moved over into working with the good guys and he's now on the side of good versus evil. And that is when The Deep shows up, so they get the family out of there quickly. We get a scene between The Deep and A-Train, former teammates here, long time in the making for them to have this conversation, and he's essentially telling him, I know you're scared of Homelander. I could see it, I could smell it on you. You know, it's very obvious. The Deep is trying to hold his composure here in this conversation and pretty much says, listen, I'm gonna find your family one of these days because it's the only way I'm going to survive. essentially. Now we move over into the character Worm being forced to dig a hole into the Freedom Camp. He is very against it, but they pretty much say, hey, we're gonna kill you if you don't do this for us. So then we discover what this guy's power is, which is digging holes, and we find out it's in one of the most disgusting ways possible, right? It's pretty much him sucking in dirt through his mouth. It's coming out his backside. Very unpleasant scene. This show is chock full of them. Another reason why it became so popular. And it makes for a very funny scene before we get into a very serious scene where they crawl through the hole, they pop out on top, and they discover Homelander sitting there waiting for them. We get a really nice scene of Homelander almost pouring out his heart to Billy Butcher about how devoted he is to stopping him. And he's like, see, this is true devotion. This is what I want out of my followers. What Billy Butcher gives me in his devotion to stopping me. And he pretty much says, you know, you're the only level of competition I've ever really had in life, so I appreciate you for that, and I am going to be sad once you inevitably die. We know that the clock is kind of ticking on the Billy Butcher character due to the condition that he has. Maybe it's been solved considering he's accepted his powers, who knows. But then we get a scene of Starlight being Starlight. She ends up blinding Homelander. They do this scene where they're trying to save everybody. All the guards there are now fighting off and killing the prisoners. We got the head popper doing what he does. They're trying to take him out. Billy Butcher eventually takes that character out. We got MM going after the very abusive guard who's been beating people with the giant schlong, right? This show is so absurd. But yeah, that's exactly what was happening in that scene. He was just abusing people with it. MM ends up stabbing him in that particular area. And then we move over into a scene where Huey is trying to save this girl that he's been kind of trying to help out there and keep her mental in check there so that she survives this scenario. And as he is speaking to her, trying to say, hey, now's our time to get out. Come with me, you know, stay level-headed. Homelander beams her through her skull right in front of Huey. She's dead on the floor. An insane scene. He grabs Huey because of how just frustrated he is, and right before he laser beams Huey's skull off, we see A-Train come to the rescue in a very X-Men Quicksilver type of scene. For the Flash, you can even say, where this is the best scene we've gotten of A-Train in the entire series. He's saving people left and right. He's slightly adjusting people so that they win their fight. And very last second, which by the way, I think this should have been first, he gets Huey out of the way from being laser beamed by Homelander, and he gets hit over the shoulder. He does get a wound for this, and then he's just staring there face to face with Homelander, his former boss, right? His former teammate, his former companion, and boom, A-Train's out of there. A-Train's running. Homelander's on his ass. He's chasing him. He's flying after him. This is another one of the best scenes we've gotten in this entire show, by the way. For all 5 seasons. This is a brilliant scene here. I think they did such a great job at displaying both of their superpowers, where we have A-Train running at the speed of light through the forest. You know, he's Dash from The Incredibles. He's running, and then we see Homelander chasing after him, laser beaming him. Evil Superman we're getting to see here, laser beaming him, trying his best to murder A-Train for the betrayal that he's experienced. And then the scene comes, okay? We're at the very end of the episode. A-Train is running. He's about to run through a woman just like he did in season 1, episode 1, which is sort of what started this entire predicament that we have ourselves in now, all the way to season 5, where he ran through Huey's girlfriend, and that kind of got him into the boys and everything that's transpired since. Well, he chooses not to do it this time, okay? He risks his life. He moves out of the way, messes up his running pattern. He falls, goes flying, hits a dozen trees, you know, probably breaks a ton of bones. He's on the ground. Homelander comes to him. He says, I guess somebody can stop the A-Train. And then we get one of the best dialogues in the entire series up to this point, where A-Train goes, you know what? I don't know what I was scared of this entire time. I really had nothing to fear. You're nothing. You're nobody. You're just an empty suit, which we know that to be true because Homelander is just a complete psychopath. No real personality there. Nothing tangible to make him a good person in any capacity. And really all he has is these powers that he's just overly abusing and trying to rule the world with. And he just sits there laughing in Homelander's face as he tries to choke the life out of him slowly, more and more, trying to get him to just stop smiling. You know, like the Joker. Now I'm always smiling, but he's trying to get him to stop smiling, and he just breaks A-Train's neck. And that's the end of the episode right there. It cuts to black. There's usually like music in the post-credit scenes. none at all, no soundtrack or anything. They just let that silence be deafening, and that is episode 1 of season 5 right there of The Boys. A brilliant ending, a fantastic episode. If I had to rate this episode, I would give it a 10 out of 10. It gets the 10 out of 10. Normally, I don't think pilots hit this rating number, but this was spectacular on so many fronts. They came out the gate very hard here. I'm hoping they keep up this momentum for the next 7 episodes up until, the finale, the season finale. And I love what they're doing with this series. This has been one of my favorite series to watch throughout the years. I believe it premiered in 2018, 2019 area. So 7 years in the making, damn near. And yeah, we're coming to a conclusion. It's been a long time, but all good things must come to an end. And I couldn't commend them more for what they managed to accomplish with this episode. I thought that was the perfect send-off for the A-Train character because, he is such a flawed character, especially when he's introduced in season 1. He's part of the Team 7. He's part of VOD. He is in on all the villainy there, but you could tell there's a level of goodness to him, and he has good people around him and a genuine family around him that wants him to do good in life, but he just keeps doing bad. And yeah, it is just a full circle for the character, right? He starts bad, and then we get this huge payoff here where he ran through someone in episode 1, season 1, and then here in season 5, episode 1, he moves out of the way, kind of completing the character's redemption arc there. Masterclass in writing here from the writers of The Boys. And those are my thoughts on this episode, season 5, episode 1. Guys, I'm curious to know your thoughts on this episode down in the comment section down below. If you don't know what we do here on Demigod ET, we do film, TV, and pop culture based content. So if you're interested in this type of content in the right place, hit subscribe, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Peace.